Good morning. Welcome to the Weekend Boost on KUHS The Stream. I am Paul Lane, and I'm your host for the show today. And those of you who are tuning in to see Beto Terrazas today, unfortunately he was not able to join us. I'm very sorry about that. Beto has actually become a friend of my wife and me, and so we are... Gonna get my volume right. So we just gonna have to hopefully reschedule or see if we can figure out something, but that's kind of where we are right now. So with that, I am going to ask you to indulge me, and I have some things to share with you, and I think that are very important things today. I think that there are things that can help you with your life, can help you with some issues and concerns that you may be facing with this pandemic that's going on. I know a lot of people are frozen. A lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are frustrated. I believe that there's a lot of people who are getting ready to come into their own. There's people that are getting ready to really cross over that pinnacle and go to the good side of things. And you know, I realize that this pandemic has been really difficult on a lot of relationships. And so maybe we need a release. Sometimes we need to give ourselves permission to let go and to be more free, to be who we really are, be the best person we can be. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and start the show. We like to talk about past guests that have been on the show, and actually Lanny Cook has been on, and he's actually written 5 books. Sons of the Eastern Plains is a book that he wrote. This is a story of his childhood and growing up in eastern Colorado. And Lanny Cook is actually an educator from Colorado, and a very, very interesting book, Sons of the Eastern Plains. Dr. Alyssa Robin was a guest on my show a few times, and I've hired her services. By the way, if you're looking for some really, really good information as far as astrological information and someone who can give you some good insight, Dr. Alyssa Robin wrote The Way of the Well. She's written a couple of books, leadership books, but this is one of her 2 books. And then Albert Quintana. Albert actually hosted the show before me, and Albert has written a couple of books. He was also an educator in Adams County. He wrote A Teacher Grows Up in Commerce City, Albert C. Quintana. And he's also written the book No More Green Chili and a couple of other ones, but this is his book, A Teacher Grows Up in Commerce City. And I think that has a lot more meaning to it than just the title says. And last is me. I'm the author of The Caregiver's Handbook. The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story. Guys, if you are a caregiver, if you know someone who's a caregiver who's going through a difficult time, this is a really good informational read that can give you a lot of insight. At the end of every chapter, I've got these gray sections, if I can find one. I've got these gray sections, and they actually highlight what I learned in each chapter. And this is really a helpful book. It's got good hints, good useful information. You know, if you're interested in any of these books, call the radio station. We have these available here, and we'd love to get you one. Autographed copy if you order one from me. And with that, let's talk about awakening the sleeping giant within you. I believe that every one of us has a sleeping giant in us. And most of us sleep through all of our life without ever waking up that giant. Many of us go through life and we don't reach out to that resource, to that magic that is us, that's within us. And sometimes it's really hard to find because it's so far down inside of us. And so I want to start out by talking about petty annoyances. And my daughter Amanda really talked to me first about petty annoyances. And petty annoyances are something that will really hold you down. It'll really hold you back. And they can be very simple things. Petty annoyances. What could be an example of a petty annoyance? Let's say that every day when you get ready to go to work, your coffee pot, the lid falls off. And it's such a petty annoyance, but you brew it and you use your coffee pot every day. And one day you just say, you know what, this is really an annoyance. This coffee pot lid just keeps falling off. That's probably not a great example, but something that really bothers you, but it doesn't bother you enough for you to do anything about it, and it holds you back. And so what I want to do is I want to ask you to do a little exercise. I'd like you to take out a sheet of paper and write down on that sheet of paper all of the things that are annoyances to you. You got a barking dog next door? Do you wake up and trip over a rug that's been in that same place every morning on the way to the bathroom? Do you spend a lot of time reading junk mail? Or something that's really holding you back? So what I'd like you to do is just take that sheet of paper and write down all of the petty annoyances that are in your life. Write down all of the things that you feel are slowing you down. All of the things that are getting in your way. All of the things that if they were not there, you could be more productive. Now, this list doesn't have to be 20 items. It doesn't have to be one item. It's really your list and doesn't have to be shown to anyone. But if you're watching right now, I hope that you've gotten a sheet of paper out and hope that you've started to write some little petty annoyances on there. And as I said earlier, sometimes we don't do anything about these petty annoyances, but today I want to do something about those petty annoyances. I'm just going to take a sheet of paper and just imagine that this has all of my annoyances on it. And let's say that I had 6 things on here. Now what I want to do is I want to make this list go away. But how can I do that? There's a couple of different things you can do. But what I like to do when I do this exercise with friends and family is I like to take them outside. And I have them read each one of the items on their list, whether out loud or to themselves. And read every one of these items to yourself. I get mad at my dog when she goes poop in the house. I trip over that curled rug every day. My garage is a mess. I got junk all over in my car and it really bothers me. Whatever the case may be. Now, take this list outside. And take a lighter or a match with you. And take this list and look at it. And what I like to do is I like to have my students or the people I'm teaching this, have them read each one of these out loud. And as they read it, I have them make a statement. And there's not a perfect exact statement, but what I like to do is I tell them to say, you have been holding me back. All of you things on this list, you have been my petty annoyances. And I no longer give you permission to annoy me, to distract me, or to slow me down. And I hereby burn this list. Now this is why you got to go outside and do it. Then you take a match, a lighter, some soap, a flame, a candle, and light that piece of paper up. And you want to light it till every word is burned. And as it goes, you let it fly. Now, did you really get rid of those things? They're still there. But now, you have consciously taken a look at these things. You have consciously made a decision to no longer let these petty annoyances get to you. I used to take and have my students crumble up the list, but it still existed. I really feel that burning the list is a symbolic representation of eliminating those petty annoyances. Now, what happens in a week when all of a sudden you realize those petty annoyances have resurfaced? What happens? You make the list again, and you burn it again. Now, you also need to take some physical action. If you got a pair of socks that you trip over every morning, you got to move those socks. Now is a good time to address those petty annoyances one by one and get rid of them and make your life a better life. Why? Why? Because when you're laser focused, you can accomplish more. You know, when I was about 21 years old, I went to a motivational seminar in Waco, Texas. And I heard a statement that blew me away. Albert Einstein said that he and we use between 5 and 10% of our brain. I was 21 years old when I heard that, and I was blown away by that. Why? Because if I'm only using 21% of my brain, what am I doing with the rest? Man, it's like going to the bank with $1 million and depositing $2. There was so much more inside of me that I wanted to find. And I realized that there was a sleeping giant inside of me. And so what did I do? I made the realization that I should expect more from myself. And so I realized that my life was broken up into sections. And there were relationship areas of my life, there were education areas of my life, spiritual areas of my life, financial areas of my life, social areas of my life. And so what I did was I looked at all of my life, and I looked at it as a project. And I started trying to improve my life in certain areas. Like, for example, I started cooking. And I realized that I was a pretty good cook. I realized that the more I cooked, the better I got, and the better I got, the more I cooked. And man, people who know me for my cooking now. I love to cook. I learned to make tortillas. I make menudo. Yesterday I made some awesome potato salad. I make lasagna, red spaghetti sauce. I mean, I am not afraid to try any recipe. Peanut butter cookies. Oh my gosh. And what's happened is that area of my life just continued to grow and continue to grow. Now I make peanut brittle. I make English toffee. I'll make anything. I'll try anything. I made salt and nut rolls a couple of weeks ago, and they came out about a couple of months ago. They came out pretty good. But really what it is I started to realize that I have a sleeping giant in me. So my mom had a floor that was going out. I had never done anything like a subfloor before, which it needed. But I went and got a book at the library, and I read it, and I put a floor in my mom's house. My nephew came up and said, "How did you know how to do that?" And I go, I didn't. I made some mistakes, but guess what? It came out right. And if you look within yourself, and if you ask more of yourself, guess what? Yourself will give you more. You know, there's a statement that says, "To whom much is given, much is expected." What does that mean? To whom much is given, much is expected. That simply means this. Ask more of yourself. You want more from life? Give more. I remember when I used to go to church. I don't go to church, I won't lie to you, but I don't. But when I used to go to church, there was a guy there, and he used to always tell me, "Yeah, I can't come here because I'm not being fed." And I said, "Well, you know what? You got to feed. You got to give. You can't just come to take. Wherever you go, you got to take it, but you got to give." And when you want more from yourself, the only way you're going to get more from yourself is to ask more of yourself. To whom much is given, much is expected. Since I grasped this statement, my life has changed. I mean it, my life has changed. And you know what was great? I got my kids in on that. I expect much from my kids. You know, one time my daughter came home with a C on her report card. And I got her aside, and I said, "Let's look at this report card." A means outstanding. B, I think it's acceptable. C, average. And I asked my daughter, "Are you average? Are you an average person? I didn't raise average daughters, and I don't think you're an average person, and I expect much, much more from this from you." I might have gone hypervigilant on that because my daughter took that to heart. And when she went off on her own and she went to college, if she got a B, she was inclined to take the course over because I drilled it into her. Maybe I went over excess. But I always expected more from my kids. I always expected more from myself. And you should always expect more from that person who looks at you when you look in the mirror. Why? I call it fulfillment. I want to call my life complete. I'm satisfied. I'm happier. And I look around and I'm always happy with the work that I've done. I'm always happy that I've made the world a better place, even if it was only the world that I live in. I made the world a better place. And guess what? You can. You've been quarantined. You've been in your house for the last year, and you've been protecting yourself and concerned with your safety, which is valid. But while you're in that house, what are you doing? Are you reading books? Are you growing in some way or another? Are you learning about yourself? Are you doing self-examination? Are you writing down lists? Are you doing housework? Are you doing yard work? Are you doing writing a book? What are you doing? Because every day that's behind you is lost. I used to be a motivational speaker in the Denver Public Schools, and I would always talk about this moment, and it's all you have because now it's gone. This moment is gone. And every day that passes can never be retrieved. Awaken the sleeping giant within you. Folks, you're watching KUHS The Stream. This is the Weekend Boost, and I am Paul Lane. Our guest, Beto Tarazas, unfortunately was unable to join us today, and so we're making the best of the situation. I'm asking you today to do some soul searching. I'm asking you today to ask more of yourself. It's said that it doesn't take long for the minimum you're willing to do to become the maximum you're willing to do. And when that happens, you're going to expect mediocrity. And mediocrity is not satisfaction. You might get mediocre satisfaction, but you won't be satisfied with the life that you're living. I want you to imagine a seed, 1/1000th of an ounce. And if I took this seed, so fragile and so tiny, it could be blown in the wind. But if I were to take this seed and bury it in the ground and nurture it and water it, it would grow, and it would grow, and it would grow. And if enough time passed, this seed would grow into the oak, the mighty oak, the tree, so massive that you could scarcely cut it down with an axe. There's a tree in California, it's called, they even named it General Sherman. And it's so big, it takes 13 men, arm to arm, to reach around this tree. This tree is so massive, it's so massive, that before one branch ever even comes out from the tree, it's 12 stories in the air, 120 feet in the air. If you were to take this tree and cut it down and build houses with it, you could build 40 5-room bungalows. One tree that came from one seed that weighed 1/1000th of an ounce. One tree. And you are God's greatest creation. What's in you? Right now we have a minimum wage, and we have minimum wage issues that are going on in the country. And there are a lot of people who are struggling because they don't have the income, because they can't find a job that pays well enough. And I know that there's other dynamics involved in that. I know that there's dynamics that we're not talking about on this show. But imagine if you just asked a little bit more of yourself. Just a little bit more of yourself each day. I have a challenge for you. This week, wherever you go, walk 25% faster. Walk 25% faster. And every time you see your image in the mirror, smile. What do you think will happen? What do you think you can expect from yourself if you were to do this? I guarantee you, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I know that there's a lot of people that are not vaccinated out there, and so you can't take your mask off to smile, or you might be vaccinated and still want to wear your mask. I do. I wear my mask, and that's who I am. That's what I'm going to do for my protection and for other protection. But imagine if you took that mask off and looked at that face with a big smile on it. Imagine how easy and how effectively you could melt away those sadnesses, those depressions, those angry feelings. I used to do an exercise with my daughters and they hated it. When they would get mad, I would make them laugh for 15 seconds. I'd get my watch and I'd say, now! And they would be half mad and I would make them start laughing and they would force it out for a while, and then pretty soon they'd be looking at each other and a guttural laugh would come out of them and they would be happy. If you're a miserable person, you know it, but everyone else knows it around you. Imagine if tomorrow morning you got up and you said, I'm not going to be that person anymore. I'm going to be a happier person. I'm going to walk 25% faster. Studies have shown that when you walk faster, you get a better attitude about life. You get a better, more optimistic attitude about problem solving. Try it. Now, there's a saying, and it goes like this. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass. I'm going to break that down for you. So, whatever you vividly imagine. So we want to talk about visualization. What do you visualize can happen? There was a prisoner of war in Vietnam, and I can't think of his name right now, but he was in a 3-foot by 3-foot cage for all of his time as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. And he had a passion for golf. And every day, in his mind, this man played 18 holes of golf. And he didn't just play 18 holes of golf in his mind. He would go out there and he would pick up the grass and he would drop it and see the wind blowing. He would feel days when it would rain. He would imagine himself drinking a cold soda pop as he went from one hole to the next in his golf cart. He would imagine chalking up his score, and he would imagine shooting as skilled as he was before he was captured. And guess what happened? Years later, when he was released and set free, he came back to the United States and went and played a game of golf, and his score was about the same score he had when he left. He didn't decline because in his mind he vividly imagined the game of golf that he was playing. Imagine if you vividly imagine making more money. Imagine if you vividly imagine being more healthy. Imagine if you vividly imagine being more educated. If you vividly imagine being a better mother, a father, a son, a daughter. Imagine. It has a lot of possibilities, my friends. Imagine. Whatever you vividly imagine. Ardently desire. What does ardently desire mean? Well, I'm going to simplify the word ardently desire for you, and it's this. Do you want something bad? That's desire. Do you want something really bad? That's strong desire. Do you want something so bad it's like air? That's ardently desire. Ardently desire what it is you want. Vividly imagine it. See it in your mind's eye. Ardently desire it. Expect it. You want it. Vividly imagine. Ardently desire. Sincerely believe. Guess what? If you half-heartedly make a desire known and you half-heartedly believe it, you're going to get a half-hearted result. Ardently desire. Sincerely believe. Sincerely believe. Now here's the hard one. Whatever you enthusiastically act upon. What does that mean? We don't need to even explain that one. Enthusiasm is a word that's contagious. Oh yeah, it's contagious. And when enthusiasm spreads, it spreads like wildfire. Imagine if you were known as the happy guy, if you were known as Mrs. Enthusiasm or Mr. Enthusiasm. Who has control over that? Not me. Not your spouse, not your kids, not your mom, not your dad. It's you. You have the ability to enthusiastically act upon whatever it is that you want. So let's put it all together. Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon. It's 4 elements, guys. 4 elements. You want to awaken the sleeping giant? Vividly imagine it. Ardently desire it. Sincerely believe it. And enthusiastically act upon it. Write these down, because you'll want to draw on these later. Imagine, desire, believe, and act. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. You know, when I was a young man, I used to vividly imagine my retirement. I used to, vividly imagine I wanted to retire so bad. I wanted to retire at 50. Didn't make it. Oh man, I wanted to do whatever I could to be retired. And you know, in January of this year, I did retire. But I kept on living. I didn't retire to die. I retired to live. And you know something? I gotta tell you, I'm using these principles and I'm living the best life ever. I'm more productive than I've been in years. I feel rewarded by my actions. I'm visualizing the future. I'm visualizing what things are coming to me. And I'm excited about them. And I challenge you to do the same thing. Vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, enthusiastically act upon, must inevitably come to pass. You want it? There's your layout. There's your plan. You think you can't do it? You're right. You think you can do it? You're right. Whether you think you can or whether you think you cannot, you are right. You're right. You know, if you took a chunk of steel, it would be worth maybe $2 or $3. But if you melted that chunk of steel down into 4 horseshoes and 2 poles, you could sell that piece of steel that was worth $2 or $3 for $40 to $50. But imagine if you took that same chunk of steel and you melted it down and you just made paper clips with it. The value now goes to $1,000 for that $2 chunk of steel. But let's take it another step. What if you took that chunk of steel and melted it down and made it into springs for watches? The value of that chunk of steel is now over $100,000. The value that you bring to the table, the value that you place upon yourself, can be only dictated by the person who looks at you when you look in the mirror. What are you valuing yourself at? What are you asking of yourself? One of the biggest differences between people who are wealthy and people who are poor is goal setting. And I hear a lot of people talk about, in school we should be teaching this and we should be teaching that and we should teach you this. And you know what? I agree with all of those things, but you know what? There's always one thing that's left out. Goal setting. You know, most people in America don't know how to set goals. And so, how do you learn to set goals? Here's how. You write them down. You make a list. You get a sheet of paper, and at the top you write everything everything I've always wanted to do, to be, places I want to go. I dare you to do this. If you do this, write into the show. Message me. Tell me that you've done this, and tell me how it's affected you. So write down your list. I want to go to Mexico on vacation. I want to visit every state. I want to fly to Russia. I don't know. It doesn't matter. There's no wrong answers in this. I want to be married. I want to have children. I want to be the supervisor at my job. I want to own the company. It doesn't matter. There's no wrong answers. Write down your list of everything you've ever wanted. And then take that list and look at it. After that, you can put it away. You can put it prominently placed. It doesn't matter, because now it's impacted your brain. I learned this exercise a long time ago, and when I was probably about 25 years old, I wrote down a list of everything I wanted in a house. I wanted a house with a view of the mountains. I wanted a house that had a sprinkler system. I wanted a house that had room for all of my kids and plus an office. I wanted a nice galley kitchen. I wanted an extra large garage. I wanted a private backyard. I had a whole list of things. I made this list when I was in my 20s, and then I put the list away, and I forgot about it. In fact, my wife and I, bought a house, and it was a nice home. It was really a dream home for us. And we got the house, and we were excited. This is back in 1997, so give you some context of how long I've been using these principles. I got that list out. I found it in a box, and I pulled the list out, and I started looking at it. I said, hey, I got a view of the mountains. Wow, I can see the cross on the mountains from my basement window. Oh my gosh, look at my garage. I got a 2.5 car oversized garage. I got a patio I can park an RV on. Oh, I got a nice big yard. I got a neighborhood that's safe where my kids can play outside. I had nice neighbors. I had all of the things that I had written down years before, but I forgot about it. But guess what? They all work on this thing right here. And when you start working on this thing's going to start working on this, and that's going to make things happen. You got to have a desire. You have to have a vivid imagination. You have to sincerely believe it, and you must act upon it. Guess what? You will amaze yourself when you find out just a fraction of your capability. You'll amaze yourself. And so many people go through life satisfied with the status quo. John Averageman died today. He will be buried in the average grave. He was married to a woman named Mary Mediocre. He worked an average job, made average wages, went to an average school, got average grades. He had an average life. He had average kids. He had an average son, an average daughter, lived in an average home. But he was never happy. He was never satisfied. He was never content. He was never complete. He was never fulfilled. He was never satisfied. He was always average. I dare you to ask more of yourself than to be average. I dare you to ask yourself to be above average. You know, back in 1994, I received the Outstanding Employee Volunteer of the Year out of 6,000 employees. And I was asking myself to give everything I had. And you know something? I gave it. I gave it. I helped raise scholarships for the Visiones Leadership Program. I had been involved as a motivational speaker for the Denver Public Schools. I was a valuing diversity instructor. I was a safety first aid instructor. I was involved in all different things. I was involved in my neighborhood association. I was on my alumni association. I mean, I was involved in a lot of different things because I asked much of myself. But you got to be careful that you don't burn yourself out, because that's also a pitfall that can happen. So you have to pace yourself. You have to go at a pace that's comfortable for you, and expect great things. Expect great things. A failure should surprise you. It shouldn't confirm. The last thing I want to hear someone say is, with my luck. A couple of weeks ago, there was a guy over at my house, and we had a sewer backup, and they came in, they cleaned it out, and it backed up the next day. And he came in, he found out that there was some real issues with my sewer, And he said, wow, must be your luck. And I go, I don't think so. I'm a pretty lucky guy. I'm really one of the most lucky guys I know. I did not let his words affect me. I did not listen to his words, because guess what? People's words can affect you. They can poison you. They can be toxic to you. They can be destructive to you. They can harm you if you listen to them. But you have to make your own mind up that you are in control. You have to get up there and look in the mirror in that morning and say, yeah, good looking, how you doing? Even if you're ugly. Say good morning to yourself. Appreciate who that guy is. Appreciate who that girl is. Thank your lucky stars that that is you. Awaken the sleeping giant within you. Now, I talked about making that list. This list of everything I've ever wanted should be an ongoing list. There was a man, his name, or a young boy, his name was John Goddard. And John Goddard found out about making a list. And when he was a young kid, he made a list of 100 things. He had some pretty hard things on there. Milk a rattlesnake. Become an Eagle Scout. Visit every country in the world. Learn a foreign language. Become a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Then he wrote some difficult things. Milk a rattlesnake. Jump out of an airplane. And guess what? By the time he was 50 years old, John Goddard had accomplished nearly every single thing on his list. Because he had a list. If you don't have a list, you don't have a guide. Listen, if I were to take a compass and hold it up here and ask you what the most important point on the compass was, some of you would say it was north. Some would say south, some would say east, some would say west. It doesn't matter. They're all wrong. Why? Because there's only one important point on the compass. Where are you right now? If you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going. You'll get there. Maybe. If you stumble on it. But you make that list and you will get clarity. You will get focus. There was a man that went into a company one time and he says, I can make you more productive and profitable. And the owner of the company says, all right, how do you want it? How do we do it, and how do we pay you? He says, I want you to pay me what you think it's worth. And so the president of the company said, okay, what do you want us to do? And he said, I want every employee, including you, every morning when you come in to write down 5 things that you are going to accomplish today. Write down 5 things you're going to accomplish. And then he went away. A couple of months later, he opened up his mailbox and there was a check. I believe it was a $25,000 check. And he called up the owner of that company. He says, I got a check for $25,000. What's up with that? He says, you gave me everything I asked for. My company's more profitable. We're more effective. We communicate better. We're more successful. All because of that simple little thing of making a list. Making a list. How difficult is it to get a piece of paper and make a list? You know, people spend more time planning a vacation than they do planning their life. Is that you? Spend some time planning that life that you're living. Guess what? You won't let yourself down. You won't be disappointed. You won't be disappointed. One time there was 3 boys, and they were standing at the edge of a snow-covered field, and they were thinking to themselves, how can we walk a straight line across this field? And they said, let's have a contest. And so the first boy just took off walking, and he walked and he walked and he walked and he walked and he walked, and when he got across the field, his path was a great big arc. Well, the second boy saw what the first one had seen. So he took a few steps, looked back, took a few steps, looked back, took a few steps, looked back, all the way across the field. And when he got across the field, his path looked like a zigzag path, nowhere near the straight that he wanted to be. Well, the third boy saw the other 2. And he thought about it. And he looked across the lake, and across the lake he saw a house. And behind the house he saw a mountain. Well, that boy thought to himself, if I keep my eye on that house and I keep it in line with that mountain, I think I can walk a straight path. And he started walking. And guess what? Sure enough, he got across the path and it was completely straight, all the way from one end to the other. What's the significance of this story? You got to vividly imagine it. Look into the future. You can create your own future. Grasp the future. Take control of it. Nobody can dictate your future but you. You know, I used to feel that I was being held back by my supervisors, and I wasn't able to get a promotion at my job. And I had been at my job for 14 years. I was working for Xcel Energy, the utility company, and I was very unfulfilled. I was not satisfied. And you know what I did? I walked away. I quit my job back in 1997. I walked away. Great paying job, company stock, 401k, education, full benefits, health benefits, everything. I walked away because I was unfulfilled and unsatisfied. And I remember my friend Dan came to my house and he said, "You're going to kill yourself. Your wife's going to leave you. You're never going to make it. You're going to starve to death. You can't make it without," it was then public service company. "You can't make it." And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, "As long as I live, from this day forward, I will never do another bit of labor for Public Service Company of Colorado. Never." And you know what I did? Exactly that. I never looked back. I never regretted it. And you know something? My life improved greatly. My stress levels went down. My contentment went up. My relationship with my family went up. And I never lost my house. In fact, 3 years from the day I quit there, I moved into a house. Well, shortly thereafter, but I moved into a house that was 3 times the value. I did not let someone else dictate my satisfaction, my success, my happiness. But what I realized was that my future was in the hands of another person. My supervisor, I went to him and I said, "Hey, I want you to mentor me." And he goes, "Nah, can't mentor you. I got someone else to mentor." So I went to someone else. "Well, I can't mentor you. I'm helping so-and-so." I went to every person I could think of and asked them to mentor me. Nobody would help me. And you know what I did? I left the company. But what I did was I did this. I went into an industry where I could give myself raises, where I could work hard if I wanted to and not work that hard if I didn't want to. And I went into commission sales. And wow, what a difference. What a difference in the freedom. What a difference in how much time I had, how much spare time I had, and how much money I made. And you know something? It was true. I really was in charge. I really did dictate how much money I could make. I made more money than I ever made in my life. I'll tell you that. In sales, nobody could dictate my income but me. And I was very happy with that. But I learned how to awaken the sleeping giant within me. Guys, I forgot to do a station identification. You're watching KUHS, the stream, on Melody Drive. This is the Weekend Boost. Typically, I interview authors for the show. Today, I had an author, songwriter, musician, singer scheduled. He was unable to make it today, but I want to make the most of this day, and I want to try to see if I can help you to awaken that sleeping giant within you, because he's there, she's there. She's really patiently waiting for you. And all you got to do is knock on that door. All you got to do is make a decision. All you got to do is stand in that mirror and say, "You know what? The new me is coming today." If you are watching this show and you are not sure that what I'm saying is true, I dare you to prove me wrong. I dare you to make that list. I dare you. Take this list, look at it, add to it, improve it, scratch things off, and keep moving forward. I got another idea that I want to share with you, and this one for me is really, really helpful, and I've done it at times in my life, and I'm not in the habit of it right now, but I just reminded myself, and so this is what I'm going to get started on today. A victory list. Guess what? If you are accomplishing things, you forget about all your successes very quickly because you're always focused on the next thing that you're working for. I would like to ask you to write down a victory list, because a victory list is going to help you to get more victories. You know, success begets success. And if you have a jar and you open it up, like I'll give you an example. In my house, I've been just working like crazy, getting ready for my grandkids to come join us. And a couple of days ago, I was exhausted. I had been working the day before, worked late till the night, and I woke up about 6:30, and I had a tree branch that fell down in my yard. And man, I just thought, I'm going to go get that. And I went over there and I cut that tree branch. And I said, all right, what else can I do? I went over and I'm working on a tree house for my grandkids, and I went up and I worked in the tree house for a while. I came down and I have a ladder that I'm going to be putting in my tree house. I got the ladder painted. I got all these things done, and man, I thought, I need to write this down. This is really encouraging. And so I'm going to go do that. I'm going to start writing down all of my victories, because one victory helps you to go move toward the other victory. Robert Schuller wrote a book called Peak to Peak Principles, and he talked about getting from this peak to this peak. You got to go through a valley, but guess what? It's all right. Once you get through the valley, you're back at the peak. And in your life, you're going to go through those valleys. You're going to go to those peaks. And sometimes those valleys can be pretty big, especially at this time. Some of you have lost family members. Some of you have lost friends. Some of you have lost both. You need victories. You need positive things to encourage you, to move you forward, to keep your head up. If any of you have written that list down, and if any of you have burned it, I really encourage you to send me a message and tell me how you felt about it. Tell me what happened when you were done. Victory can be an elusive thing. Victory can be a challenging thing, because we know that not everybody wants us to be happy. Not everybody wants us to be successful. You know, you might be talking to someone and you're telling them how good things are and how happy you are, and they don't want to hear it, because their marriage may not be as good as yours, because their health may not be as good as your health, because their kids might not be as well behaved as your kids. Encourage them anyway. Don't do it in a way that makes you look big and them look small. Do it in a way that you're helping them out. Reach out to your friends. Reach out to your family. Be the light. As you look around your life, I'm sure that each one of you can name someone in your life who is very positive. You can name someone who's very forward-thinking, someone who's very exciting and very enthusiastic, and someone that you like to be around. It's like heroes. If you can't find a hero, be a hero. If you can't find an enthusiastic person, be an enthusiastic person. If you can't find an example, be an example. Are you a chunk of steel, or are you watch springs? What's the value of your life? I can't dictate that for you, my friend. But you can. Lists. Everything I've ever wanted. Petty annoyances. Daily lists. And in addition to that, there's one more I want to talk about. At the first of every year, or the last of every year, you should be sitting down and writing out a list of everything that you want to, hope to, wish to, plan to accomplish in the year ahead. I know that most of you aren't going to do a thing with what I'm talking to you about. That's your fault. I can't take that responsibility, but I can tell you this. If you get a list of everything you want to accomplish in 2021, even if it's the last 7 months of it, if you make a list, and at the end of the year, you look at that list, I will guarantee you that you will have accomplished some things on that list. Now, if you take a list, you get it, crumble it up, throw it away, guess what? Forget it. To whom much is given, much is expected. I believe that if you take one step forward, you can take another, and another, and another. What if your list is writing a book? Write a book. Come on the show. Expect greatness from yourself. Expect goodness from yourself. Look into your future, because it'll make this interim time much more effective. Look at tomorrow. Look at next year. Look at your position in life. Are you satisfied with it? I've always been of the thought that, and write this down, I will develop an inspirational discontent with things the way they are. I develop an inspirational discontent with things the way they are. What does that mean? That doesn't mean you're not happy with life. You have an inspirational discontent. I have an inspirational discontent because I got an old car and I want a nicer car. I have an inspirational discontent because my backyard is a filthy mess and I want to make it better. I have an inspirational discontent because I've been an asshole in my marriage. I have a discontent because I want to be a better man. I want to be a better woman. I want to be a better mother, a better father, a better son, a better daughter. Develop an inspirational discontent with things the way they are and improve the situation you're in. It's not that complicated. It's a very simple process, but it's so difficult because the first step is the hardest. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. How do you take a journey of 1,000 miles? One step at a time. You don't take a mile step, you take one step at a time. And at the end of it, you will look back and you will be content. You will be satisfied. You will be fulfilled. And you will be complete. I didn't make these principles up. I didn't invent them. But I'm glad to share them. And I just hope that there is someone out there listening to this show, one person that's writing down their list right now, one person that's tired of the way their life is going, that they are developing an inspirational discontent with things the way they are, and they want it better. You want a better job? Start applying. Start improving yourself. Start educating yourself. The library, the internet is free. There's no excuse for dissatisfaction. There's no excuse for you sitting in dissatisfaction. I'm not in control of that, but you are. You're the greatest creation on earth. And one seed that weighs 1,000th of an ounce that can develop that massive tree. What is inside of you? What is inside of you? It is said that anyone can count the seeds in an apple. Anyone can open up an apple and count the seeds. Nobody can count the apples in a seed. Let me say that again. No one can count the apples in a seed. How many seeds are in you? How much fruit will you bear? Are you going to go to your grave average man, average woman, average income, average job, average home, average living, average health? I don't accept that. I don't accept that from myself. If I know that I am only using 10% of my brain, I'm going to do everything I can to get 11%. I'm going to stretch myself to get 12%. I'm going to stretch myself to get 15% and 20%. Who knows? How do we do that? By books. By being involved. By being present. By expecting greatness. Again, whether you think you can or whether you think you cannot, you're right. What's the biggest thing stopping you? Again, it's you. It's that person that looks at you in the mirror. I love this poem. I repeat it often. An enemy of mine I had, whose face I stoutly strove to know. For hard he dogged my steps unseen wherever I did go. One night I seized, I held him fast, and from the vial did draw. I looked upon his face at last, and lo, myself I saw. My friends, I again apologize for not having Bento with us today. I just hope that what you've heard today, you take it home. I just hope that you have a notebook or a sheet of paper and you've written down your list, written down your petty annoyances, written down your daily list, your yearly list, your life list. Seems like a lot? It's not. It's really quick. It's really effective. It really works. I don't believe that anyone in this world is designed or made to be poor, living on handouts. I don't believe that there's anybody who wants to live an average, mediocre life. We get trapped in it. But I don't believe that there's anybody who wants to get out of that life that can't get out of it. I believe that if you want to get a change, I believe you can. I believe you can. Message us at the show. Let us know how this bit of information has helped you, or if it has helped you. Or if you think it's BS, let me know that too. I want to know. Guys, this is a really a humbling experience to be in front of you, talking to you, and I'm really grateful for it. But you know what it inspires me to do? It inspires me to do more for my life. I'm on the downhill side, I guess you could say. I'm a senior citizen. God, I never thought I'd say those words. But you know what? I'm happy. I'm content. I expect much from myself, and I expect you to ask that of yourself. Look within. Pull it out. Surprise yourself. Surprise the world. Surprise your spouse. Surprise your mom. Thank you for joining us today, guys. I am so humbled to be here in front of you. I never dreamed that I'd have had this opportunity, and yet here it is. I'm just, again, thankful to know that I've had the opportunity to speak to you today about something that's very near and dear to me. Write the list. Start now. Don't wait. Talk to yourself in a positive way, guys. Give yourself positive messages. Give yourself permission to be successful. Give yourself permission to be happy. Literally, look at yourself and say, I give you permission. I give you permission to be cool. I give you permission to be happy. Don't worry. Be happy. Guys, you've been watching the Weekend Boost on KUHS, The Stream in Denver. I am Paul Lane, the author of The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story. And I am, again, thankful that you've joined me. Thank you for taking time out of your Saturday. Those of you who stayed with the whole show, thank you especially. Have a great day. Thank you again.